Yes. Got it.
Okay.
Close that one. Close this one. Okay, Bhante.
Okay, let us begin with the metta practice. May all beings be happy and secure. May all beings have happy minds. Whatever living beings there may be, without exception, weak or strong, long, large, medium, short, subtle or gross, visible or invisible, living near or far, born or coming to birth, may all beings have happy minds. Let no one deceive another, nor despise anyone anywhere. Neither from anger nor ill will should anyone wish harm to another. As a mother would risk her own life to protect her only child, even so towards all living beings, one should cultivate a boundless heart. One should cultivate for all the world a heart of boundless loving friendliness, above, below, and all around, unobstructed, without hate or resentment, whether standing, walking, sitting, lying down, or whenever awake. One should develop this mindfulness. This is called divinely dwelling here, not falling into erroneous views, but virtuous and endowed with vision. Removing desires for sensual pleasures, one comes never again to birth in the womb. With this metta thought in mind, let us continue our practice. We pay mindful attention to our breathing. And remember, the breath is very pure and universal. All living beings breathe. And we use this pure and simple breath to focus our mind. So the mind also can become one with the breath. And like the breath, mind also becomes pure and clean, free from greed, hatred and delusion. With this intention and metta in mind, let us focus our mind on our breathing. As we breathe in, we notice the breath touching our nostrils and then expanding our lower abdomen and chest area. As we breathe out, we notice the lower abdomen contracting, chest area contracting, and the breath leaving our nostrils. Primarily, eventually, we notice only the breath moving in and out through the nostrils. At the beginning, we notice all these gross signs of inhaling and exhaling. As we breathe in and out like that, we feel the breath and we perceive the breath. We become, our thought arises with the breath, thought that is intention, then consciousness arises with the breath. As breath is moving, this feeling, perception, thought and consciousness also moves, so to say. And then they disappear as the breath moves in and out. So we notice the breath, the feeling, perception, thought and consciousness that we had when we were breathing in. will no longer be there when we breathe out. New feeling, new perception, new thought, new consciousness arise. And they fade away when we breathe in. A new thought, new feeling, etc. arises. And then when we see this pattern, this repetition of the same thing, our mind does not try to hold on to anything. And that way we make our mind relax. When the breath is relaxed, the mind is relaxed, body is relaxed, we feel the desire for holding on to anything will no longer be there. And then also when we relax, metta feelings start taking root and resentment fades away. And then along with that, we experience more relaxed feeling. Then compassion arises, restlessness and worry fade away, and sleepiness and drowsiness fade away. And then we become full of joy of seeing impermanence, unsatisfactoriness, and selflessness of everything, pleasant or unpleasant. We become active, spiritually active, to see the opening or revealing truth to us. We want to see truth even deeper. Then also we gain confidence of our own achievement, success in our own personal life, in our body and mind. And then doubt fades away. Doubt regarding the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha fades away because we are following the truth, experiencing the truth, and that makes us more confident. When joy arises, it leads to happiness, and then body becomes more calm, tranquil. That is called passaddhi in Pali. Passaddhi also is a factor of one of the factors of enlightenment called passaddhi sambojjhanga, also arises in the mind. Now see how many things, wholesome, positive, meaningful mental states arise. How many such mental states arise? And then we gain concentration. When we gain concentration, we see even deeper changes and impermanence in deepest way that shows us that everything is impermanent, has nothing permanent in them. So selflessness will fade away. So all this craving, clinging, conceit, greed, desire, ignorance temporarily fade away, and then we, with the concentrated state of mind, seeing impermanence in the subtlest way, the most difficult thing to overcome is the notion of self. That notion of self slowly dilute, fade away mind. With this we continue our practice and see these results for ourselves, within ourselves. dukkhapatta ca nidukkha bhayapatta ca nibbhaya sokapatta ca nisoka hontu sabbe pipanino. May the suffering be free from suffering. May the fear-struck be free from fear. May the grieving be free from grief. So too may all beings be. Friends, with this metta wish, let us focus our mind on the explanation of this discourse, meditation discourse called Mahasatipatthana Sutta. Today I thought of talking on the sampajanya, that is clear comprehension. Clear comprehension is divided into four categories, four classes. They are in Pali, Sattaka Sampajanya, Sappaya Sampajanya, Gochara Sampajanya, and Asammoha Sampajanya. Sattaka Sampajanya means the clear comprehension of the purpose. At the very outset we mentioned the fivefold purpose of this practice. And we must remind that ourselves of this fivefold purpose. Constantly we must remind, because we want to be mindful. This sometimes is not very easy, because people, amidst of all other activities, try to meditate, and therefore perhaps they might find it difficult to remember this fivefold purpose of meditation. Let me remind you the five purposes. That is Sattanang Visuddhya, for the purification of being, Soka Paridvanan Samatikkamaya, for overcoming sorrow and lamentation, Dukkha Domanasyanang Attangamaya, for overcoming sorrow, grief and despair, and Nyaya Sadhigamaya, to fall into the track, meaning following the path. Nyaya means the system, method of meditation, the method of attaining liberation, the method of Noble Eightfold Path, the method of dependent origination. These are the items or terms of methods, system. Then the fifth is Nibbana Sachikiriyaya. By doing all this, we attain Nibbana. So for the attainment of Nibbana, for overcoming sorrow and lamentation, for overcoming grief and despair, for purification of our mind, for following the path, middle path and dependent origination path, and by following all this, attaining Nibbana. These are the fivefold purpose. So when we meditate, when we practice mindfulness, we must keep these purposes in mind. Why we meditate? We meditate for all these five purposes. To accomplish them, we meditate. then that is called Sattaka Sampajanya. Sampajanya means clear comprehension of Atta means purpose. Clear comprehension of the purpose of meditation. Sattaka Sampajanya. Second, the sappaya. Sappaya means suitability. We must ask ourselves, is this practice suitable for achieving those fivefold purpose? That is the question. Not during meditation, but all other time, even when you sit to meditate, when we sit to meditate, very quickly we must recall the purposes and ask ourselves, is this practice suitable for achieving those purposes? Sappaya. Sappaya means suitable. Then the fourth clear comprehension is gochara. Gochara means domain, the field. Is this field is my mindfulness practice, or should I be in this field? And we must comprehend that what is the field? Field of mindfulness. Field of mindfulness. And that also Satipatthana Gochara. In other places, Buddha said our Gochara, or our domain, our field, is the establishment of mindfulness. Our field is establishment of mindfulness. And then asammoha sampajanya, clear comprehension of the clarity. Sammoha means confusion, asammoha means not confusion or clarity. So we have to be clearly comprehend the clarity itself. We have to have a clear understanding of what we are doing. We are not doing it for any other purpose, and we are not doing it for anything other than this suitable. We don't practice in any other field. We practice this very clearly. So these are the four clear comprehension. Now, to make it even clear, even what you call impact very deeply, I like to mention what Buddha has said when he was explaining this comprehension. Said the domain is the sati. Sati, mindfulness, is the domain. Sati sampanya gochara. Gochara means go is cow. Chara means the moving. The cow move in the meadow, in the grassy area, to eat grass. Taken from that simile, that reality, Buddha used the word gochara. The Go means cow, chara means the field where cow moves to eat grass, gochara. Our gochara is mindfulness, and we must keep very clearly in our mind not to drift away from this domain, this field. There is a very beautiful simile, little parable. Buddha used parables, similes, examples to explain the truth, the Dhamma. The parable he used is here. We find it in Samyutta Nikaya that the simile parable is that there was a little quail. Quail is a very tiny little bird, mostly sitting on the clod of mud in the newly plowed field. Suppose there is a rice field. Uh, Most of you might have not seen rice field, but you can assume rice field which needs water and mud. So one day, one quail was sitting on a big clod of mud, basking in the sun. Then hawk came and grabbed this little quail. While being carried away by the hawk in his own claws, this little quail said, today is my unlucky day. Had I been in my own domain, this hawk I can defeat very easily. He will not a match to me, to fight me. I can easily defeat. This big hawk was very delighted to hear this little quail's boasting. He was not upset. He said, where is your domain, your ancestors' field? Then he said, that field where you find fresh clods of mud. That is my field. That is my domain. And then Hawk said, okay, I take you there again and put there down. But remember, tomorrow I come back and grab you. So he brought the quail back and put on the paddy field and flew away. Next day, the quail came out sitting on the clot of mud and asked and challenged the hawk. Hawk came stooping down very fast, spreading his big wings. That instant, this quail hid under the clod of mud. The hawk came and looked around, and he could not find him. So hawk was very upset that day, and he beat his breast and flew away with anger, shame, being defeated by this little quail. So Buddha said, this is a story. Buddha said, similarly, if we stay on our domain, That is our field. What is our field? Our field is mindfulness. If we stay on our own field, the hawk is Mara. Mara means defilements, greed, hatred, delusion, disturbances, hindrances, fear, and all these are the armies of Mara. They each and every one of them is a hawk, and they will not come and get us if we clearly understand our own domain, and we must stay there. That is called clear comprehension of the domain. And then clear comprehension of the, the suitability. Suitability is we must clearly understand what is suitable for developing our mindfulness. What is suitable? You cannot develop your mindfulness by focusing your mind on anything where you cannot see impermanence. Although everything is impermanent, you may take quite a while to know the impermanence of other things where impermanence is not very conspicuous, not very clear. Like you focus your mind on a rock, on a tree, on the earth, on something outside where you don't see the impermanence so clearly. But when you pay attention to something, that is the impermanence in which is very, very clear and you can experience. That is suitable for your mind development of mindfulness. In the mindfulness, you must see rising and falling, rising and falling, rising and falling. Rising and falling you can see not on anything that exists. And this also we must remember, this is a very subtle thing. Rising and falling exist when rises and falls. And we must be able to notice the rising and falling at the time it is rising and falling, not before, not after. For instance, sun is rising and falling. It takes a very long time for us to understand that. Moon is rising and falling. We take also long time. Sometimes we cannot even see the moon to notice rising and falling. Rain is rising and falling. We have to wait until rain comes. What is rising and falling that we can notice is our breath, is our feelings, our perceptions, our thoughts, our consciousness. Each and every one of them is rising and falling. Breath rises when we breathe, falls when we breathe. Breath is moving in and out. We can notice rising and falling. We can see impermanence right there. So this is suitable for gaining mindfulness or insight. Insight into what? Insight into impermanence. We practice vipassana meditation to see impermanence. And we can practice mindfulness to see unsatisfactoriness. we can practice mindfulness to see selflessness. All these are clearly marked in our breath, in our feelings, perceptions, thoughts, and consciousness. This is our domain. This practice is suitable for that. People ask, in order to get clear comprehension, what we should do. In order to get clear comprehension, we must pay attention, undivided attention, clear attention, unpolluted attention. Attention also has qualities: high quality attention, low quality attention, attention with greed, hatred, and delusion, attention without greed, hatred, and delusion. For instance, this experiment somebody made on a dog salivation. When you ring a bell at meal time, and dog immediately start salivate because he associate his attention with associate the bell with the food. So his attention is on food, on the bell, which arouses his greed to eat. That is attention. You can see a cat pays attention where you can see cats are sitting and sitting and sitting, waiting, paying attention to the movement of a mouse. And at the right moment he jumps and catches the mouse. Here he pays attention. You can see crane, the big bird sitting, standing on one leg for perhaps hours on in the shallow water, focusing his mind, paying total attention to catch a fish. A fisherman taking the fishing rod, throw the bait, and wait for the fishing rod to move so that he can pull a fish. Like that, even people have attention. But these attentions are not the kind of attention we must develop. We must pay quality attention without greed, hatred, and delusion to notice rising and falling or something that is not there. When the impermanence is, always remember this very subtle point, impermanence is not of impermanence that exists. Impermanence is not something of something existing. Impermanence arises when something arises, or something arises and it immediately vanishes when that something disappears. This is what we learn in dependent origination. When, for instance, when greed arises, pain arises. If greed does not arise, that pain doesn't arise. When the greed exists, pain exists. When greed passes away, pain passes away. So that particular pain does not exist. It arises when greed arises, or hatred arises, or delusion. When it is gone, that pain is no longer there. In order to catch this very subtle thing, we must pay pure, clean, undivided attention, which is called mindful attention. Where can we find this? In our own body, feelings, perceptions, thoughts, and consciousness. When we breathe, as we breathe, breath is not one some kind of cylindrical thing. Breath is a particle of very tiny little air, bringing oxygen. And when we pay attention, pay attention on our nostrils, we can see very, very subtle changes in the breath. To gain that awareness, we have to pay attention. That is called paying or paying attention, clear attention to understand what is happening. So, in order to understand the suitability, domain, and so forth, we have to have a clear comprehension of our purposes, suitability, and non-delusion, and the feel. We must understand them. Then, non-delusion is we must not be confused with regard to our practice. For instance, when we sit to meditate, as we mentioned, there are what we call hindrances. I think most of our meditators know there are 5 hindrances. You can add even more hindrances. For instance, you are sitting in a very comfortable, air-conditioned room after your meal, and you try to meditate. Cushion is comfortable, room is comfortable, the stomach is comfortable, and no noise. Everything is very, very good. And then, within very few minutes, you fall asleep. You fall asleep. So, you associate this sleep or you attribute this sleep to jhana, concentration. And there you are deluded. Or in meditation, you all of a sudden see bright light. Then you see that is the attainment of enlightenment. And you sometimes feel like body becoming very light and you feel like floating. And you think that is a great achievement and so forth. These what we call red herrings, to divert your attention here and there, to deviate you from the main practice. So we have to be very careful and not to have this confusion. This is called non-delusion. Non-delusion. So we have to understand the non-delusion. And this is called clear comprehension of our postures and practice. The postures these are called minor postures. And I don't think I have time to explain minor postures. Next time I will explain them. But for now, I think, as I said, we should not rush. we must go very slowly. I am keeping in mind those who are practicing meditation and who may not have clear comprehension. So I want to spend little more time to explain what clear comprehension is. This particular section is on clear comprehension. So friends, I think I must stop here and want to continue my metta benediction, wishing everybody peace, happiness, and liberation from suffering, especially those who are suffering from this COVID-19, uh, maybe in hospitals or homes or in what we call quarantine centers, trying to recover. May they be successful and recover very quickly and return to their very normal health and continue the Dhamma practice so that they can liberate themselves from not only this temporary suffering but all the suffering in samsara. And there are people, doctors, nurses, hospital staffs who are trying to help them in their own way, using their skill, compassion, understanding, dedicating their life to help these people. May they be successful. May they continue doing their noble service and live long in good health to continue their wonderful service. There are people who are still mourning, grieving. I hope they would return to their normal life very quickly, understanding Dhamma, practicing Dhamma, and liberating themselves from suffering, not only this life, but for the whole samsaric existence. And then there are leaders who are trying to help, and some of them successful, and some are not. May they, all the leaders, be happy, peaceful, and insightful to continue their noble service. Other leaders who have not yet made up their mind or doing their best in their own way have wisdom, understanding, courage, determination to make right decision and wise decision for the benefit of these people. And there are some others who are supporting them financially and physically, volunteering and so on. May they also continue their noble service and live long in good health and to continue their noble service. Overall, I wish you all peace and happiness and continue your wonderful